Hi everyone, I'm Laney. Today I'm going to talk to you about using Dubsado as a stationery designer. A lot of these things are going to also apply to any type of graphic designer, so if that's what you are, feel free to stay with us, and I'm really excited to talk to you all today. So first of all, who am I? I'm Laney. I'm an invitation designer and have been. My company is called Design by Laney. I also am an educator for creative entrepreneurs, and one of the special areas that I like to educate is on client management systems and CRMs. So I'm a Dubsado certified specialist. I also am an educator with 7 or 8 other platforms. So I know a lot about CRM systems and what they can do for your business. And I choose to use Dubsado for my stationery business with all of my clients. And I'm going to teach you why today. If you decide to use Dubsado at the end of this, I have a code for 30% off, which is just Design by Laney, my business name. So I'd really appreciate it if you'd use that if you found this webinar helpful. Now here's why I personally love Dubsado. These are the 3 main features that we will be covering today, which is the subcontract feature, the forms, and the workflows. There's so many other things Dubsado can do for you, but these are the 3 things that really keep me coming back from Dubsado when I have so much knowledge of other CRMs and what they can do for you, and why I think that Dubsado is a really good system specifically for graphic designers, stationery designers, invitation designers of all sorts. Now, before Dubsado, these are a few things that I was doing that was causing my business, I wouldn't necessarily say stress. It was working, but it was things that would not work on a larger scale as I got busier. These are things that worked okay when I had 3 or 4 clients, but they weren't okay when I started getting bigger and more professional and my clients started spending a lot more money with me. And some of these things caused headaches as well as mistakes along the way. So I was sending my proofs and contracts via PDFs. Then the client would have to fill them out, which I don't know if you know this, but it's very difficult for some people to fill out a PDF these days, especially when you're dealing with mother-in-laws. People in older generations, they have trouble with PDFs. So they would have to either print it out, sign it, scan it back in, or find a way to fill it out online and send it back to me. For proofs, they would just respond to that PDF with an email, and then I have these giant email chains with so much information in them. Hey, can you change this? Oh, another email the next day. Also, can you change this? There weren't clear steps for what questions they needed to answer about their proofs, how to provide positive feedback, and then I was missing a lot of things. So the second thing is email chains to collect data and revisions. At the beginning, with weddings specifically, there's so much information. What time is the wedding? Where is it? What's the dress code? All of those things. And if clients weren't providing that in the first email, I was missing things. So I was having to do more revisions. And then even after that, I was missing things that they might have sent, and I didn't have an official sign-off process. I was also using PayPal and Google Sheets for my invoicing, which I'll show you in a second, how disastrous that actually was. So all of these things, they worked when I was small. They worked when I first started out. All of them were free systems, and I found that really promising. I didn't think I had the money to invest in something that would really combine all of this and help my business so much. But I ended up starting to make costly mistakes. I was missing things. It was taking too much time, and it wasn't making my business look professional. I remember the first client that I got that I was like, I need to set up Dubsado right now, was a client that I never met. They found me on Instagram, which was one of the first times this had happened. I could tell they had a larger budget. I could tell they wanted to do something really big and wonderful, and I absolutely love this client. This client changed the course of my business, and I stayed up all night setting up Dubsado because I knew that I couldn't just send them a PDF invoice from Google Sheets. I knew that they would expect more from my business. So here's an example of an invoice that I created at the beginning. This is the type of thing I was just downloading as a PDF and sending to my clients. Now, you may notice there's a lot of things wrong with this invoice. I wasn't pricing super well at the time, but I'm going to point you to something at the very bottom. This number for the day of pieces, the total was $482.75. So first of all, I never recorded my second payments. I recorded the deposits. I never recorded the second payments. So I'm sure I got it for this client because this client was great, but I didn't have any record of that. But when you look at that $482, if you actually add all of those line items up, the total is $631. So I had made a mistake on this spreadsheet and somehow cost myself almost $200 just because I was using a spreadsheet, which in theory could do the math for me, but I didn't even type it all in, right? So just an example of how using all of these kind of makeshift systems can really screw you up. And here's a very clear example of how this cost me almost $200. So then what is Dubsado? This is a client and project management tool. That's the high level. What does that actually mean? They have a lot of booking features, so lead captures, proposals, invoices, and contracts. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then there's additional features that I'm probably not going to get into today because they're a little bit more aggressive, but just to give you an example of all the things that Dubsado can give you. There's a scheduler, so you can schedule appointments with people. Public proposals, which is basically a way to take a client who's never contacted you through the entire booking process from start to finish, getting paid, getting the contract signed, getting something scheduled, without you ever having to talk to that client. So those are incredible. They're a little bit more advanced than what we're going to talk about today, but I urge you to check them out. It also includes time tracking, financial reports, lots of other information there. So there's so many things you can do with client management systems and specifically Dubsado. So we're going to cover a few of them today. So today's focus is going to be on forms for information gathering, subcontracts as proof, and workflows or automation. These are the three things that I absolutely love as a stationery designer and think are going to prove really, really valuable to you as a graphic designer or invitation designer. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how Dubsado can help you with booking, but these three things actually focus on the client process after booking. So I'm going to kind of focus on that today after giving you a brief overview of the booking phase in Dubsado. Another thing that I want you to notice throughout this webinar is that I keep things really, really simple. I'm not using a lot of the complicated stuff within Dubsado. I'm not using a lot of the features that I could be using. There's a lot more I could be doing, and it's still saving me hours and hours and saving me from making tons of mistakes. So there are hundreds of thousands of different types of forms, different looks you can give. You can do custom coding. You can do so much with Dubsado, but I want to focus on these three things that are honestly very simple features of Dubsado, but still make the most massive difference in my business. So I'm going to skip over. I'm going to get out of our presentation and go into Dubsado. So this is my demo account. You won't see a lot of information in here because I'm not sharing my client information, but you're going to open up to your dashboard and then all of your projects. This is the tab that I basically live on, is that all of your projects are going to live here. You'll see all of them. You'll see what invoices need to be done, dates, all of these things, and you can really customize up here where everything is. So for invitation designers, you could say, this is a lead. You could have another bucket for after you followed up once, after you followed up twice. That's what I have in my main account. And then within the job, you can move them throughout the buckets of who's in the booking onboarding phase, who's in the design phase, who's in the production phase, so that you can really easily click through and see everything that you're working with. So if you clicked on design, you could see all the clients that you need to do design work for, and they would be evenly, placed throughout these different buckets that you can completely customize. So I told you I'd mention a little bit of the booking process. So one of the templates that you'll create, and once we get into forms, this will all make sense, is your lead capture. And here is what mine looks like. And you can see this does not look like Dubsado at all. This looks totally seamless with my website, and it's embedded in here. And then once people put this information in, they'll click this, and I'll get an email saying, hey, you have a new lead, and it will already be started as a project in this lead section with all of that information that they've put in the form in here. So I don't need to add it myself. From there, it's really easy to just create an invoice. That's what I typically do. And you can create all of these different things as packages to go on your invoices. And then you can send them in a proposal. And so what a proposal looks like is it pulls in that invoice. There's a lot of different things you can do with proposals, but this is very simple. And this is how I do it, is I create the invoice, pull the invoice into the proposal, and then what this looks like from the client perspective is they'll get the full proposal with whatever you want on it. And you'll see all the options when I get into forms. They also see the contract, and they also see the invoice and can go ahead and pay that right there. I can't because this is not my client view, this is my administrator view. So they can go through and with one click of sending one little form, you can send them all 3 of these things, get the contract signed, get the invoice signed. So I typically get those notifications all in a row. They've submitted your proposal, they've signed the contract, they've paid their retainer. All 3 of those usually happen within 5 minutes of each other for me, depending on if they actually take time to read the contract or not. So that's kind of the booking phase, and then they're already in here. So then once you have them booked, what does it look like to gather all of their information, create proofs for them, and then automate all of that? So we'll focus on those 3 main things that I love for stationery and invitation design. So I'll start with the forms, and I'm just going to go and add a new questionnaire just to show you all of the different options. So one of the things the main thing that I send is my invitation information questionnaire. So we'll act like that's what we're doing. We already have one with that title. So you have all of these options. If I move my face a tad, you have all of these options from how to format your forms to what you should put in them, to all the different things that you can ask them. You can ask them a yes or no question for your response. You can upload images, drop-down box, check boxes, date select, and you can require any questions that you need as well. You can even do a file uploader. So I love to do that on my design questionnaire because the file uploader allows them to upload any design inspiration photos that they have. You can also do this custom code block, which is how you might see people have GIFs or videos or sliders or all different things on their forms. There are a lot of really cool custom code builders for Dubsado specifically, but I'm going to show you what you can do without any of that. So here are my main 2 questionnaires. This is my design questionnaire. All I've done is upload. This is an image block. And when you get in there, you can just select any image file, upload it. Takes a second apparently. And then once it uploads, you'll just be able to click on it and change it out with anything else that's on your form. So I have my logo up here. These are called smart fields, which is why they're green and they're in these brackets. And there's so many different fields on here that you can use. So the project will be about the project, the start date, the end time, the address, a bunch of different things. You can also have custom map fields. I have a YouTube video on that on my channel if you want to check that out. It's a little bit more in depth. So as an example of a custom map field, you could put their venue name on here. And then you can do client, so have their first name, whatever. Invoice, have their totals and reminders. The business is about me, the date, and then links to things like forms and contracts, etc. So if you want to include on here, the client name, the job start date, I typically do that as the wedding date. And you'll see some more about that on workflows, why I do that, but you could always do it as their mailing date. I welcome them and thank them and ask them about their design questionnaire, and then I have some images here. So for instance, if I wanted to change this image out, I could just click on one of these here. Very, very easy to do. And you can also put things in columns. So if I added columns, I could move this image into the column, have it not show the title, and then I could put these questions over here in this column container too, in theory. Okay, I just lost that question. There we went. There we go. How did you and your fiance meet? Where are you getting married? And so it's just a way to customize your forms and make them look more how you want them to look, more customized. So you'll see some other things on here. I ask, where are you getting married? Do you have a planner? How would you describe your style? And then I give them some options. One thing that I've been wanting to do on this form is adding some pictures with this. So sometimes I find that clients have trouble articulating what they want. What they think of as romantic might not be what I think of as romantic, etc. The word elegant is thrown around a lot, but what does that mean? So you could very easily put columns here and allow them to choose from options with photos attached. I ask them their favorite places to shop, wedding colors, all of these kind of questions, and then I have the file uploader for them. I clicked that image button, and so it appeared down here. But you can always move things around however you like on the forms. And then most importantly, you like to tell them what's going to happen after they fill out the form, just so that they're not confused. You can change the success message that they get after the form, but you're going to want to just give them some information, like, if you've already filled out this question, then you're good to go. I'll send over your proofs in 1 week, 5 business days. If you've not, then please visit that form so I can start designing the correct information. And on your settings here, this is where you can change the submit button. So it can be like, let's do it, or ready to go. And then their completion alert, you can change what that says. So that's where you can say, hey, thanks for filling this out. I'm going to send you this other questionnaire, or I'll send you your proofs in a few days, that kind of thing. Okay, and then I want to show you my information questionnaire. This is where I would say this is the most value that Dubsado has brought to my business, has been through this questionnaire. And it's so simple. There's no custom code. There's no videos. You can do all of those things. You can add gifts. You can bring so much personality into this. But I haven't even done that, and it's still paid off tenfold ever since I've gotten Dubsado, because this form prevents me from making so many errors. It prevents me from missing something on an email chain, having to create a new revision because I forgot one thing that they said, and it makes sure that every client fills out all of the information they need to. And so I'll show you what that looks like. So first of all, we've required almost every question, and all you have to do that is just click this cute little button right here, and then it'll have a red star next to it, and they won't be able to submit the questionnaire without filling out that question. I recommend if you want your business to feel open to all types of couples, I hope that you do. That's something that I'm really passionate about. But straying away on your forms from bride, groom, mom, dad, etc., and allowing space for couples that are not heterosexual or not cisgender or not traditional in those ways, and also for the parents as well. So we have spouse A, and then we have spouse B, and then we also have spouse A parent, spouse A second parent, and then spouse B parent and spouse B second parent. So that allows for all sorts of couples in all 3 of those places. I also make sure to ask if they're still married or not, because those will change how the wording appears on the invitation. So then all of the questions are here. I have a drop down, where is this? Okay, with the different types of wording that we're going for that they can select, and then there's examples here. You could do this via photos on the form. You can do so many different things here. This is I like to keep things really simple, and this works for me. That's one of my favorite things about Dubsado is you can always go crazy with it. You can always add a welcome video. You can add photos as examples. You can add gifts. You can do whatever you want, but also the simple stuff will work really well and will get you the information you need. So I have all of this information here. There's a few things that aren't required. So if yes, what attire should be listed. If they select no, then I don't need them to fill that out. I make them select their dates for RSVPs. There's a few things on here that do incur a fee. So that's listed here is, do you want this? This is going to incur a $45 fee. And then this one doesn't incur a fee, but I always have that on there. Then I have their RSVP postage. This is just a reminder that they can send that to me, and then my old address, that's not my current address, that they can send the postage to. So I have this on the form, so they fill it out. I also sometimes have it on the proofs as well. And then for extras, so this is if you want a details card. And the cool thing about the Dubsado forms is that you can template things. I would always recommend templating them on the longer end as opposed to templating them on the shorter end, and then being able to delete stuff. So if I have a client who's not getting a rehearsal dinner invite from me, all I do is delete these 2 things before I send over the form. So let me show you what that looks like. So if I go into Abby's project here and then go into forms, and I'll type in, I have a lot of forms in here. So we'll do the invitation information questionnaire. This is this form that I just showed you. It has everything on it. And so I'll add it to her profile. And from this point on, since I've added it to her project, any editing that I do only applies to this project. If you go into templates forms, that editing is going to apply to all the whole template of the form. But this editing just applies to this project. So if Abby's not having a rehearsal dinner invite, I'll put it there. If she's adding a map, I can always just add a little question and say, you know, what locations do you want on your map? Require it, because she needs to answer that. And then that will go straight to her, and she can submit as many drafts as she wants. And then once she submits the final, I'll be able to see all of her answers. Very simple. And then I'm going to show you my day of questionnaire, which is another example of starting big with everything and then paring down. So I do a lot of paring down on this one depending on what they have. So they have, when do you need the items in hand? And this is a special reminder to them that that's different from the day of the wedding. So sometimes I'll have clients who say, oh, I need everything a week before the wedding because I'm leaving, and they haven't given me enough time. They didn't tell me that. So I'm expecting to get everything to them by 2 days before the wedding, and they need it a little bit sooner than that. So they have to select that here. And then all text and wording is due 4 weeks, and then I'll make them select that date so that they are very clear on when that is. Escort cards and place cards. So this is in columns. So if I need to, what I can do is just delete that column, and it'll delete everything in here, and then I'll also delete the title. So if they want escort cards and place cards, they have to select on here the color paper, if they want them tinted or flat, if they need meal choices and titles, what color ink, and then they also can upload their spreadsheet here. This is one of the bigger things that saved me time and money, because oftentimes I would, I've done escort cards and done 150 of them on the wrong color paper because of an email chain that I missed. So having everything in this form makes it so that every time I need to go in and do that, I know exactly where it is. I also have a sign section, and I can just duplicate this, and it duplicates the entire sign section. So if I have an 8x10 bar sign, and then maybe a 5x7, let's see, 5x7 cards and gifts sign. So that's just another option. So I'll go in and edit that before I send it over to them based on their proposal. Menus here, they have a place to do text, and the same thing will happen for programs. I can just copy and paste this, and then they can upload anything that they need to here. So I absolutely love this form. We can save that and close it, and then send that over to them as well. So this is an example of forms, and then I'll hop into a different type of form now that you really understand how to build them. This is my favorite. This is probably the one thing that specifically, while forms have been the biggest money value add to my business in Dubsado, this particular type of form is the reason that I stick with Dubsado over any other client management system, because I've never seen another client management system that allows for this. Usually they allow for contracts, and then once a project has a contract on it, that's it. They don't allow for a secondary contract with signatures. And so what I love about Dubsado is this sub-agreement form, and it allows for a signature. So you see, I only have 2 of them, and only one of them is invitation related. That's all you need. So I'm going to show you this. This is what I use for my proofs. And the difference between all these different types of forms is that contracts and subcontracts have to have a space for signatures or initials. So they have to have signatures at the end. You don't have to have initials, but you can have that option. These are not options on other forms. So what that does is it allows you to get a legally binding signature, which is what designers need before we go to print. So instead of just an email saying it's ready to print, I have the safety and security of knowing that I'm going to have a legally binding signature on this in case something happens. And so on this, I'll show you how I do all the proofs, but at the bottom we have, by signing below and choosing yes for the options, you agree that all the information is correct and ready for production. After signing it with all yes choices, any changes will incur additional costs. If you have changes, please select no. So they have to sign every single time. And these are the buttons that they have to click yes on, which is our wording, text, times, location, spelling, etc., all correct and ready to print. Our design and layout approved and ready to print. Our colors, papers, details, etc. approved and ready for production. So that, if I get 3 yeses on there, it means that they've looked back. I've given them a reminder to look at text, times, location, spellings. I've given them the reminder to look at design and layout, and also colors, papers, production details. So even just such things as quantity, finishing is like wax seals, envelope liners, silk ribbons, I put all of that in there, and then the type of addressing they're getting. So they're signing off on this every single time. Another thing, I do use it also in my other account for my semi-custom suites. I sell those on Etsy. And so then once they've paid on Etsy, they still haven't signed my contract. They haven't looked at my terms and conditions usually. I put them on Etsy, but they don't have to sign it. So I don't have proof they've seen it. So every single proof, I have like a shortened version of my contract down here that they have to sign off on about delivery times and color variation and all the little things that we need as graphic designers who are producing things for print. So I'll show you how this works. So when I do have a proof, the big thing is just templating it and making it really easy on yourself. I make a mock-up here of everything in Photoshop, and I save that as a JPEG and upload it as a picture. So every time I have a new mock-up, I'll add it in here and change it out. But this is the standard form, so I always have the space for the mock-up there. Then I try to keep everything as templated as possible. So generally all of my suites have a main invitation. Generally they're size A7 with 120 eggshell bright white paper. So I have that information in there, and if I need to change it out, for instance, then I can really easily. I can just click on that and say, oh, we're gonna do soft white paper instead, or we're gonna do a double thick. So it's going to be 240 eggshell. If I'm doing a specialized print method, I'll just include another item here and say, letterpress printing, etc. But I like to keep what I'm going to have most often there, and that saves me so much time. So I don't usually have to type that in. I just have that there, and 90% of the time it stays the same. So put whatever your most common thing is there, and then you'll be able to use it really easily. And then I'll just upload a new image of the, let's see, I'll just upload a new JPEG of the suite. I export my artboards directly from Illustrator, and then when those are ready to go, I can just click it and put it in the template. So having this template there puts space for everything I need. It helps me not forget things. There's a space for the invitation. There's a space for the RSVP card. There's a space for the envelope. So it helps me not forget those things. And then since this is really big and kind of hard to see on screen, you might want to change it down so that it's possible for someone to really see it on screen and it looks a more realistic size. Then you'll have your RSVP card details. I have, I'll put in here the quantities, say 150. Finishing, we'll do envelope liners, and then I'll put a picture of that below here. Soft blue envelopes, and then addressing, we'll say printed, return address, and gold ink calligraphy guest address. And then I'll put my sample images of all of that below here. But it's really easy to just bring this up, change out the pieces that you need. Most of the time, all I have to do is swap out the images and then update the production details. And then I have plenty of, I have all the information ready for those clients. So this proof is the number one thing that really keeps me with Dubsado. So this proof is the number one thing that keeps me with Dubsado because I need that signature here. I love to have someone sign off on a proof, and if they say no, they can put their changes right here. They're not going to be in 15 different email chains. I'm not going to have to go searching for them in my inbox when I'm working on their revisions. I know exactly where to find them always. So I think that's like the biggest thing about CRMs in general is just knowing where to find things as opposed to searching for them in your emails or asking for them, and knowing that there was always a space for that question to be asked. You're not going to worry about missing the time on the invitation because you know that question was asked. You're not going to worry about, oh, did they approve that color? Because you know that was a question that was asked. So you can just have that confidence and peace of mind. So let's get out of this one. I'm not going to save my changes because I did some weird stuff there. And the third thing that really keeps me with Dubsado is that they have better workflow automation features than any other client management system that I've worked with. So I'll show you on here what that looks like. Basically, a workflow is taking a process that you do on a bunch of different clients and putting that into kind of an automated system. So you basically are saying, after this happens, I want the system to do this, I want the system to do this, and I want the system to do this. And because of those smart fields I showed you earlier, where like the client name or the project date can be brought in, you can make these things look really personalized and customized, even though they're not. Even though you have, typed out a canned email that goes anywhere. So before you can start your workflows, what I really recommend doing is just writing out your process flow from start to finish. Okay, so how does a client contact me? After that happens, what do I do? Do I have a consultation with them? Do I send them a welcome email? Do I send them a pricing guide? What different things happen? And then after they see that pricing guide, do I create a proposal for them? Do I then have a consultation with them after the proposal? What are the different options? If they say no to the proposal and want changes, what do I do there, etc. And go all the way through booking, through the project, even after the project, through like asking for reviews, asking for referrals, following up, asking for pictures of the wedding. That's a really common one for us in the wedding industry. So I would write down exactly what happens, make it like a little flow chart, and then you'll start to see areas where you can automate. Anything that you're doing over and over and over again, you should automate with Dubsado because it's incredible what you can do. I haven't showed you canned emails yet, but they're going to be in this template, and then I have showed you forms. You also can do a lot of things in this workflow, like the scheduler, if you want to send out a scheduler to schedule a consultation. I've showed you I sort of showed you packages on the invoice. It's like you can basically say this is an invitation package and bring that into one click. So there's a lot of things that you might have to set up before you're ready to set up your workflow, but once you do, you can put them in this workflow and automate so much. So I'm going to show you exactly kind of what I do here. So this is my custom invitation workflow. And what I'm going to do is activate the client portal immediately after the workflow starts. So whenever I apply this workflow to a client's project, it's going to activate the client portal. This is a place, I'll show you what that looks like. There's so many things here that I can't cover them all because it's just difficult. But once you get them set up, I want you to see the power of the workflow. So I forget what email we have in there for Abby. Okay. Oof. Branding. I must have spelled it wrong. Okay, yes, I spelled it wrong. This is a place where she can see all of her client files, emails, she can see her invoices and pay them. Any of our questionnaires will be in the incomplete forms, etc. So this is a client portal and you have to activate it. So in that workflow, the first thing that we've done is activate that portal so that it's available for them. Then we're going to send this form, invitation, proposal. So we'll send, so then before I do the workflows, I always create the proposal. And then it will automatically send this form to me. So as soon as I apply the workflow, the first thing that it's going to do is send this invitation proposal. So when you add an action, you can tell it to change the project status, add a tag, send an email, send a form, just so many different things here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is send that form, and then you get to select which form that is, which is going to be invitation proposal. And then you can type whatever email you want here. So, hey, I've made this form for you. That's a really easy one, but you can make it a little bit more aggressive. And then once they get the proposal, I showed you earlier, they have the invoice and contract right there. So after they've signed the contract, I'll change the project status, and it's going to go to current because it used to be in a lead. And so it's going to go from a lead to becoming a job current. And then once it becomes a job, I'm going to send them this nice email. So this is something that is really nice. I always wanted to do before I had Dubsado, but I just never really had time and I wasn't thinking about it. But now I've been able to automate this. So it basically says, hey, welcome to our family. We're so excited. Here are a few things that you can use as help. So these are questions that I have been answering a lot and decided instead of answering these questions individually, I'm going to preempt these. It's going to make me look so much more professional to my clients if I go ahead and provide these resources. And these just like, this is a template and these two are blog posts. It's nothing fancy. And then I also tell them about the portal at that point and include the portal link. And what's so fun about this is it makes it look like a personalized email. You can even do things more personalized. You could put thanks, I'm so excited about your wedding and include the venue name there if you've made that as a custom map field. So there's so many different things you can do here, but I think something like a welcome email is a great example of something you might not have always done on time or remembered to do or had time to do, but it's going to make you look so much more professional and provide those resources. So it's going to save you time in dealing with questions about invitation wording and etiquette and all of those type of things. And then one day after that, I'll send them the invitation information questionnaire, which I showed you. And then I make it so that I have to require approval before completing this action, because like I showed you, I might have to edit that proposal before I send it over if they don't have that rehearsal dinner text or details text or whatever. So that's where it's going to add this form to their client project, and then before it sends them, it's going to ask me for approval. So I'm going to have to go in that next day and say, okay, this person doesn't have a rehearsal dinner card, so I'll delete that section. Now it's ready to go. Once I approve it, it sends it with this whole email, and that tells them what to expect. And I don't have to type any of these emails. I don't have to worry about any of this. Now, as soon as it does that, it's going to apply my proof to the project, not send it to them, and not send it to their portal. That means that it's just in there, ready for me to edit, ready to go, which just helps save me like 2 or 3 clicks. And then after they send that questionnaire in, I'll thank them, remind them about their proofs, and of course remind them at the address template. You'll see that in so many different places because, as you know, it can be difficult to get the addresses from your clients as an invitation designer. And then once I send that proof to them, I will thank them for completing the proof approvals and say that we're officially in production. Now I have this as a required approval because I only want to send this after the last proof. So kind of in between getting the information questionnaire and sending the proofs and getting to the last proof, it's up to me to really manage this process because some clients can go 15 times. Some clients can get it done in 2 proofs. I had one client one time where we only had 1 proof. It was amazing. That's the dream. But then I want to make sure they know. And a lot of times I would forget to update my clients because I was like, okay, now I'm in production mode. I have to order everything. I have to print out my sheet, check all the quantities, get everything done, get all the print files ready. So it's a lot of work that we're doing, and it's really good to send this to the clients. And also it indicates, like, I feel like I have clients who think, oh, we sent this to proof, we signed the proofs 2 weeks ago, and now I can still make changes to things. And so this is a good, like, this is done, this is what's happening. If you have changes, you cannot make them, or you need to tell me like right now. So I think that's really helpful. So I always have to approve this to be sent, and then again, reminding about the address list and sending them the RSVP postage. Okay, after we are in production, this is 6 weeks later. So generally, I put this at a time frame that we would generally be done with all of the proofs and everything, and then I require approval before completing this action, just in case like there's something wrong with the invitations, or we're still working through something, or there's something awkward going on, or I don't want to work with them for their wedding invitation stationery, whatever it is. Sometimes I don't approve this sending out, but otherwise I generally do. And this is just a reminder of if you're looking into wedding and day stationery, let us know. We can get you on the calendar, etc. Sometimes I send it before 6 weeks, but either way, like, it's in there in the workflow, so you can choose when exactly that sends, but I like to just have it in the workflow. And then after the project start date, this is why I do the wedding date, because I want to be able to make, when you add an action, you get to choose when it happens. So after all of these things, and project start date is one of them, or before project start date is another. So you can use the wedding date as kind of a barometer there to measure things. And I think that's really helpful for me. If you want to use the send out date of the invitation, that's fine, however your company operates. But this one is where I email them and ask them 6 weeks after the wedding, hope you love married life. We would love to see pictures, and we would love to get a review. And so that's just a way for me to kind of ask for a review and get marketing photos without fully, seeming like I'm just asking for the review, but it does happen. And then after the project after the wedding, we're going to change the project status to past project. And typically I don't use those buckets of like current project, design, production, etc. I don't really divide my projects into that, and I don't have a lot of projects going on at once, but you can put all of that information in here. So for instance, after their invitation information questionnaire is filled out, you can put them in design, and then after this, we're in production, email is sent out, you can change it to being in production, whatever. So you don't have to worry about those things. And I think the workflow capabilities of Dubsado are more powerful. They have more actions and more triggers, which is what these all are, than any of the other systems that I've seen. Like, I love this after form is not completed trigger, because if they don't do something, you can have it send them an email 3 days later and say, hey, you haven't filled this out yet, please do that. So these are just ways to take everything else you've built within the system and automate it and change it. So these are, I mean, there's 5 emails in here or so that I don't have to worry about sending, but my client sees. My client sees their name on them. My client sees their wedding date on them. It looks personalized, and it looks like it's becoming really timely after they've signed the contract or whatever, and it provides them with resources, makes my company look super professional and look like there's a million people working there when it's really just me and this automated system. So that's one of the things that I think takes Dubsado to the next level. You might not be 100% ready for that if you're just starting out with a CRM, but even so, like, this is not even what makes me like think that you need a CRM, specifically Dubsado. The forms in that sub-agreement, if you are a graphic designer / invitation designer in general, those are the 2 things that are like absolutely game-changing. And then once you're ready, you can kind of upgrade into some of those workflow capabilities and actually automate a bunch of that stuff. Whew. I'm gonna go back to my little presentation. Woohoo. So just as a reminder of who I am, I'm Laney. My company is Design by Laney. You can find me designbylaney.com, YouTube, Instagram, etc. I'm an invitation designer and a Dubsado certified specialist. And if you decide you want to use Dubsado after watching this, please use my code Design by Laney for 30% off your first month or year. I really appreciate it. And then if you do want to learn more from me about stationery design, running your business, I have some more advanced Dubsado tutorials on my YouTube channel, for instance. Check Design by Laney on YouTube, Instagram, blog, or designbylaney.com. But I hope you'll consider using Dubsado, because I promise you that it's going to make your life easier. It's going to save you from making so many printing errors, and it's just going to give you the peace of mind of knowing that you're not missing things. You know where everything is, and it's just really easy to locate everything and work with your clients from a professional standpoint. So thanks for listening today. I really appreciate it all, and I hope you'll use my code Design by Laney if you end up using Dubsado. Thanks, everybody.